That extreme heat we've had. Expect future heat waves to only increase in severity, says Eric Bandala, assistant research professor at Desert Research Institute.
We did some analysis in the past, and we found that the extreme heat, and particularly the heat waves in Las Vegas, are getting stronger, more frequent, and getting worse every time. At least this is the trends for the last, let's say, 20 years or so.
Is this something that people living in southern Nevada should just accept as commonplace and get used to?
I'm afraid that this is it. The cover with more paved surfaces around are creating something that is called the urban heat island, which is getting worse and worse. And the urban heat island is a phenomenon that collect the heat during the day and release it back into the nighttime. So something that we have also find is that not just the high temps during the day are going higher, but the gap between the high and the low temp is getting closer. So we have warmer nights every year, and it's getting hotter and hotter during the nighttime, where we were supposed to have some release.
When you think about extreme heat in southern Nevada, what concerns you the most?
Well, there are many concerns. One of them is, for example, in agreement with our findings, the number of heat-related deaths have been increasing significantly and constantly for at least 15 years. So, to give you an example, in 2007, which is the first year that we got this data for analysis, there were about 20 heat-related deaths. Last year, there were over 250. So now this is a big concern because it's the people's life that we are losing here. But beside that, we have observed also an increase on the number of, for example, outdoor workers affected by that. And in a very recent project funded by the John B. Snow Trust, we found that not only outdoor workers, but also indoor workers has been increasingly affected by extreme heat, which was something that amazed us. I was not expecting that to happen.
How so?
For example, people working in places where there's heat around, like kitchens, dry cleans, are being affected by the heat outside, but also because it is hot in there and they have no access to, for example, ventilation or air conditioners. That double the effect on them. So they are reporting or complaining about these kind of hard working situations. And we got this information from Nevada OSHA, where they said, they report that this is increasing in time as well.
Your study that explored the impact of summertime heat waves on people who work outdoors, what stood out to you from it?
I would say that the main thing that surprised me was the increased number of female outdoor workers being affected by extreme heat. Now, we were not able to figure out whether that was just because more and more female workers are jumping into outdoor works or jobs, or whether it was a physiological issue depending on the gender. So anyway, I thought that was interesting because guidelines are usually produced thinking on the average person, which probably looks a lot like me. Mid-age, this tall, this weight. But that take me to think that probably the guidelines or even regulation had to be gender considering, because it's not the same the effect that may have in someone like me, that if it is female with different condition and physical characteristics.
What else may not be understood about extreme heat?
We found like the number of heat-related deaths for people under the influence of substances has increased also like crazy. For example, people under the influence of alcohol or methamphetamines, cocaine, has gone like rocket high in the last 10 years. So I suppose that the kind of thing that we all need to know is that if you are using any of these substances, it's probably not the best idea. Go and expose yourself to the extreme heat.
The Southern Nevada Health District says those most at risk for heat-related illness are older adults, the very young, and those with chronic medical conditions or mental illness. However, anyone doing strenuous physical activity in hotter weather can be affected.